Okay, here he is then. He's going to have to rejig a few plans after yesterday's abandonments. Nicky Henderson, good morning.
Morning, Nick and the team. How are you?
Yeah, all very well, thank you, Nicky. Thanks for
Good.
joining us. Happy birthday for yesterday. Although it was a day I'm sure you'd have rather spent at Cheltenham. How much improvising are you going to have to do over the next 10, 14 days?
Well, quite a lot, to be fair, obviously, because of what we lost this weekend, and to be fair, like you were just talking about, we've got to sort of think about Shishkin and where he is going to, well, distance what we're going to try, and it's not easy to find the races for them. To be fair, I know it's an old chestnut, but it was very sad to lose all that at Cheltenham over the weekend because I mean they did an amazing job on Friday to get it on, and you could see what's happened, and it was inevitable throughout the whole week that it was going to be a very tricky situation for them to get these 2 days on, and unfortunately, it didn't happen.
I mean, do you think in circumstances like this there's any merit in being a bit more agile in terms of what races you run on what day in order to give yourself the best chance of getting the best races on?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't actually watching you early on. The only when JP was here yesterday, and I mean the only idea you could have is that you have a whole hurdle card on one day and a chase card on the other, and therefore you haven't got to uncover the course. You can let it keep warm.
Yeah.
It could happen, but that's the practicality of it is one thing, but it's not the worst idea.
No, one I hadn't considered, and yeah, certainly an interesting one to throw into the mix. In terms of those hurdlers then, you've now obviously got Constitution Hill, Epatante, First Street, presumably wanting to get a run into all of them around about Christmas time. What are you thinking at the moment?
Well, the plan was for Constitution Hill to go to Kempton, and that is where we'd like to, and that's where he will go, all being well. Epatante, obviously, we were coming back into the international. It would be lovely to think, and it has been done before, that international did reroute to Ascot. I think in binoculars here. And it'd be nice to be think that was a possibility. Otherwise, Epatante, you haven't got much option but to go straight back into Kempton and take on Constitution Hill again, which that's the reason we were going to Cheltenham, was because she seemed very well. If only a fortnight after the fighting fifth, but she seemed very well, as did First Street. First Street could run in the handicap at Ascot on Saturday with 12 stone, because I'm pretty sure the two top weights are going to do different things and run in the Howden Wrong Walk and different races. So he would have 12 stone. I know he had 12 stone at Newbury, but that was against sort of second season novices. This is going to be harder.
Okay, so that looks like the plan for those three at the moment. There was talk about going to the Matheson hurdle in Ireland with one of the horses. Is that still a possibility? Could you send anything
not
there?
really, because Constitution Hill is actually the only one we have in there. Epatante's not in. So, and Constitution Hill wants to go to Kempton.
Okay.
And that's where he will go. And that leaves Epatante sort of without a slot, which that's why I say the international was pretty important. And I'm hoping to be able to talk to the powers that be that maybe, as I say, it has been done before. So maybe they'll help us.
Have you had any steer on that yet?
No, none. Okay. I have made a call, but I haven't managed to talk to anybody yet.
I make it a shade of odds on you won't get your wish, but I might be wrong.
Well,
what about John Bon? Does he fancy a trip to Kempton over Christmas?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I think he's probably the kingmaker. I mean, he doesn't really, as you can see from here, he's going round on his own. He did it, well, actually, Morrell kept him company over the first four fences at Warwick first time out. And this time he went round on his own. He's only going to have to, wherever he goes, I can't see anybody taking him on for the lead early on. So He's just got to do his own thing. I would have thought something like the Kingmaker at Warwick and leave it at that. Then he can do plenty of practicing at home and keep his eye in. But he's really well and he's in great form, and I don't think he needs to go to Kempton.
And we spoke quite extensively about Shishkin a few moments ago, and you were thinking about stepping him up in trip now. Is he okay after the Tingle Creek?
Yeah, we've looked at his back. Think we can help him there. Yes, I mean, it did look a bit laboured, and his jumping wasn't as slick as what it's as he can be. We have, I know all these things are deemed excuses and whatever, but sort of chiropractor, physios have been working away. They have identified an issue which we can correct, as you would with any horse. If there's anything to be seen, he was sore. It's the same thing over 2 miles. If you go back to the Clarence House last year, that epic race with Energinine, to be fair, he was off the bridle the whole way until the second last. We looked in horrible trouble, but he stayed, and he only got there because of stamina. But I think probably these horses just don't. If you're going around time and time again, flat to the boards, they get rather bored of it, to be honest with you. They'd like to be in a comfort zone. And that's where I'd like, if you upped him to 2.5 at least. And it's not easy because I've been through it. The only place he could probably go is the Silviano Conti in January at Kempton, or the Ascot Chase. Those are the only 2.5s, and the 3s he's not in the King George, and I don't suppose that would be a very good place for him anyway. But it's nearly coming down to running in a handicap if you want to go that, or the Cotswold Chase. And then Chantry House has got to come into the equation, only because he unfortunately unseated in the many clouds, which was very disappointing, because we've been sort of very pleased with the way he's come on this year altogether. And I was really looking forward to that. So that's left him out in the cold with nowhere to go, except for, again, having to run the Roland Merrick or something like that. But again, they're bound to have top weight and open handicaps. So it's a bit of the Cotswold Chase is obviously the obvious one for Chantry House, which he won last year.
But Nicky, are you encouraged by the fact that because of the way the cards have fallen this season, there's a lot of horses of real quality that have run in handicaps? I mean, L'Empresse to name one example, but there have been many others as well in good handicaps. I mean, Grenadine in the Holden Gold Cup of 168. They've just bossed their inferiors. Would that encourage you to do something like that with Chantry House? Because he's unlikely to meet a horse of serious calibre in the Roland Merrick, however much weight he's got to concede.
Yeah, you would. You'd just like to see these limited handicaps, because that's what gives them a great... Well, that's the big incentive. You'll get a selector field if you don't have to give away 2 stone.
You'll keep everything out of the handicap, and then you become massively well in.
Well, it was rather like the Saturday we lost a race for Mr. Coffey on I couldn't run him at Cheltenham on Friday. And that was a novice handicap over 3 miles, and he had, in fact, done exactly that. He pushed every single one of them out of the handicap. So, yeah, of course we like races like that. But, I mean, we're not, in fairness, if the 3 mile chase at Ascot on Saturday, I mean, had we foreseen, possibly we should have foreseen, if I'd have known what was going to happen, Chantry House would have probably had an entry in that and say, go and run in it and carry 12 stone, because there is nowhere else. Sadly, he's not in that. But, well, there you go. I mean, I didn't put him in, and as I say, you couldn't foresee the circumstances. We had a plan. It didn't work out, and now we haven't got ourselves an alternative.
What's good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander. What is the news on Buzz? I saw a nice picture on social media earlier in the week with you and he seems to be back. Is he somewhere approaching fitness?
Well, Buzz is back. He's back at Seven Barrows, which is lovely, and he's thoroughly well in himself. He's been doing a huge amount of rehab work. He's actually been doing a lot of dressage, and we've been down to see him with James and Nicky Stafford and Jess. We've been. He looks fabulous, and everything seems to be working well. It was a pretty severe injury. He fractured his pelvis, but he's moving very well, and there's been, every step has sort of progressed. His movement and his whole hind action is improving the whole time. He's building muscle the whole time, and he started gentle cantering. We've got a long, long way to go, but if we're going to get anywhere this year, we had to start now. But the veterinary team have been positive. We're being positive, and if he ever says no, listen, just hang about. This isn't for me. But I can do other things. Then we'd never ask him to go and do something if we thought there was any risk or that he wasn't going to enjoy it.
Okay, so if he does come back and he does well, obviously he's a horse in the staying hurdle division that's going to be very interesting. Now, after Champ won at Newbury, you wondered about the long walk, or wondered about maybe keeping him fresh for later in the year. Are you going to give him a run if Ascot's on next weekend?
Very much so, we hope. Yes, he's in very good form. Satyan, who rides him every day and knows him absolutely inside out and backwards, says he feels in great form. Obviously, he hasn't required a huge amount of galloping since then. He had a nice spin yesterday. No, the plan is the long walk. I mean, I think we always understood that, he can be very, very good fresh. He won the long walk first time out last year, and he won the Newbury race first time out this time. But I mean, there wasn't much between them, to be fair. They're going to meet again. But what a great sight this is. The two 10-year-olds, they've been at it a long time. They've been two absolute stars, and I'm sure they'll put on a big show again.
Champ, Paisley Park, the rematch is on next weekend. And Nicky, we can't let this go without just asking one final question about Constitution Hill. How do you train him between these races? Obviously, you got him ripe for the week before the Fighting Fifth. You won the Fighting Fifth with him. Presumably, you have to do not too much with him at home, but just enough.
Yeah, he's just ticking over at the moment. He hasn't done any serious work since, but he will start this week, and he'll have a gallop on Saturday, and the following weekend, I would imagine. And I'd do 2 bits of work wherever we can. I'd like.
I mean, how are you getting the work? How are you getting his work companions right now? If he's demolishing them with.
Yeah, no, we have ways and means.
Are you having to jump one in halfway up the gallop again?
We did once last year, yes. It's not the easiest thing to do, but when you've got very good riders, which we luckily have, I think it's easy. It's not that difficult, actually, because you can let 2 good horses work away, and then he comes and joins them and just does his own thing, and they do their own thing. It keeps him going. He's a very clean-winded horse, which helps us. He can get a bit heavy at times, but he seems good, and he's very happy in himself. We'll just tick over this week. I say the weather's just, you've got to be mindful. If we can't get to where we want to going wise in his preparation, we'll probably just have to step it up a bit more. But he hopefully, unless I mess it up completely, will be fit and ready for Kempton Boxing Day.
All right, Nicky, thanks so much.
It's a pleasure.
Subscribe to Racing TV's YouTube channel now to watch more great races like this.